Unlock your full potential with Brain and Focus, a powerful supplement designed to boost mental clarity, enhance memory, and sharpen concentration. Made from a blend of scientifically proven ingredients like ginkgo biloba, omega-3, and essential vitamins, Brain and Focus is crafted to fuel your mind. Our process ensures maximum potency and effectiveness, delivering the perfect balance of brain-boosting nutrients. Take just one capsule daily, as prescribed by your healthcare provider, and feel the difference. Whether it's powering through your workday or staying sharp in life's challenges, Brain and Focus keeps you at the top of your game. Stay sharp, stay focused, and stay ahead with Brain and Focus. Brain and Focus, fuel your mind, achieve more. Go get this product at Black Hot Fire. Fuel your body with complete multivitamin, the perfect balance of essential nutrients for daily health and wellness. Carefully formulated from natural ingredients, our multivitamin packs vitamins A, C, D, E, plus key minerals like zinc and magnesium to support your immune system and boost energy. Just one tablet a day is all you need. Take it with water and feel the difference as prescribed by your healthcare provider. Stay active, stay strong, stay ready with Complete Multivitamin, your daily dose of vitality. Complete Multivitamin, simple, powerful nutrition. Go get this product at blackhotfirenetwork.com at the Sports and Nutrition store.
The girls love me, that's what your man I know. Everywhere I go, they wanna sing my song. Man, they go feel this thing too. The Pan-African Place Show with your host, none other than Joe. If we clap on man, so we give them up. They got me big boy, pull away the illness come, so we give them good vibes, things till they drop. Oh, they wanna sing my song. Some of them pull that when we show them though. Sing Sima, who's got the keys to my bima? Who am I? Tell me girl, them sugar cane money, fresh money, no time for the money. Say the girls, them a love me, boys, them a know me. You can run me race, but you don't and watch me. The time of him, that is what they call me. Call me. The guys love me, that's what your man I know. Everywhere I go, they wanna sing my song. And a bad man, and they go feel take it up. The guys love me, that's what your man I know. Everywhere I go, they wanna sing my song. Man, a bad man, and they go feel take it up. They go feel take it up, dum. If you have this go, I'm a dog class. If I take mistake, nation, I'm a soldier, nigga. And then let me my thinking come. Oh, Cinderella, mama, Cinderella, mama. I see the real girl, they put a bam bam bam. She be my trap when I be a king kong. And much of a lonely, she be my ding dong. When I do the body flexing, she put the bum bum boom. She do me bad, is a rat for the titans. I jump skip out, what she walk is a tight back. Better see the god is a real miss. Bam 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 bam. The guys love me, that's what your man I know. You ever they wanna sing my song. And a bad man and they go feel take it up. The guys love me, that's what your man I know. Everywhere I go they wanna sing my song. Man a bad man and they go feel take it up. They go feel take it up. Oh my God, you make more than me. I go do you bad, but you are gonna give me one for the go do you can't have it. Oh my God, you make more than me. I go do you bad, but you are gonna give me one for the go do you can't have it. My fans are the realest thing. No matter what they want, getting me racing. Marathon getting tight, but I keep racing. One by one, I let me know thing this is. But mine wanna plan away. Why just stop me? They can't do your way.
Family. Grand Rising. Hope you guys are doing amazing today. Happy Thursday. 31 minutes past the top of the hour. Caleb Singer with Girls Loves Me. Playing right here in the middle of the 21st century. This is the Black of Fire Network. My name is Joby to the first time listener on YouTube, Rumble. Everyone live with us on the radio. Everyone with us on BitChute. Hope you guys are doing amazing today.
The girl them skill OG. Me love me girl them big and thick like Eskom when them a shot ya. But me love me girl slim and straight up like cherub. No more tussy, but me love them packed up like chest and tussy. They don't know, you see. Caleb 254.
Yeah, that is Caleb Singer, one of the greatest, amazing singers, man. And literally, I don't know what happens. You start, then you just literally never continue releasing music. But Karibuni Sana once again. My name is Joby to everyone who's live with us for the first time on YouTube, Rumble, BitChute. To the returning listeners on the radio, hope you guys are having a wonderful, easy Thursday so far. And hope you're ready for today's conversation, which is very, very interesting. I want to take you guys today down the history of majority of the greatest civilization of Africa, or what literally Africans were capable of. And if you look at actually today, we're talking about actually the Nok Civilization artistic legacy, which is coming literally from all the way back in 1500 BCE to 500 CE. And then we shall be talking also about the Benin Kingdom, literally the greatest Benin Kingdom, and the walls, how advanced the city was, literally how it was so full of lights. And we're talking about before the Europeans. So we literally had electricity even before the white people here. Like, this is something we never thought. I mean, white people is out, they love taking praises every single time, claiming everything we literally came up with. We should also talk about the Afro-Brazilian returnees who have enriched or literally returned and enriched Lagos, that is in the 19th century, as we check literally what they did in Brazil and coming back in Nigeria. We should also talk about the Aba Women War of 1929. As we literally continue, it's a whole lot. So I'll see due to time where we shall be able to push the conversation to. If not, we'll be able to continue with the rest tomorrow, because it's amazing. Personally, I love when I'm going back to history, trying to understand majority of the things that actually took, effect to what we have today in Africa. We're talking about Nigeria. This is actually the history of Nigeria, majority, if you talk about it. And when I shall be getting into the Benin, kingdom and its greatest civilization and the walls, we shall be checking, because we saw recently also we had the British, colonizers who returned some of the stolen artifacts that they did steal when they actually bombed, used firearms. They came up with all these kind of bombs that, the Benin people didn't have. Remember, when it came to war for us, we didn't have the gunpowder. Of course, it was there, but for us, if I look at literally Africa way back then, the way we used to fight is arrows, the traps. Again, one of the videos I'm gonna be sharing is explaining everything, where we used to actually have these traps that actually could capture people, maybe in the forest and all that, poisoned arrows and a whole lot of things. So karibuni sana, that is our conversation for the day. But before I get started, I'd love to remind you kindly, if this is your first time, download our application. And we also do request you to donate something that actually you can. We have an active donation page that is on our application. So ensure you go to the Google Play Store, download the app. Black Hot Fire Network is the name. If you're using an iPhone, www.blackhotfirenetwork.com is our active website link. And ensure you sign in also using your username. Tonight, I'll be on the culture show. So in case you've been missing the culture show, in case you want to listen to the music when you're at work, just chilling, just tuning into the internet and putting your earphones and tuning on the radio if you're not able to stream on TikTok or maybe on the show page. So karibuni sana once again. That's our conversation for the day. So I think we're gonna start with the Nok. With the Nok Civilization, straight up immediately, as we get to see literally the artifacts. Because when you talk about the artifacts, personally, I love talking about this because it's very amazing to see that what we are capable of. Number one, I'll start with that. What we are capable of, and looking at our people, what we don't know today, just it's crazy and at the same time really really amazing. Personally, I love learning history, so I find it really amazing looking at the greatest civilization and what we are capable of and how meaningful and intentional we really were. I'll say how meaningful and intentional we really were, because if you look at the artifacts, we know most of them were used for healing, most of them were used for in different ways, spiritual, with different spiritual ways, literally healing. It could be praying, I don't know, talking to your ancestors and all that. It's a whole other bunch of things. So we have the Nok civilization, literally, which we're gonna start with, and this is actually our ancestors who are smelting iron, and this is before the white people. And this just took me a minute to just reason about it, and I'm like, hold on. Today, if you look at Africa, with the most exploited people, right? Africa is the future. We know the rest of the world has enriched itself, has enlightened itself, has all these great industries, manufacturing companies, and everything. It has the cars, the phones, and everything we're talking about, literally. We know it is because of the resources that come from Africa. Majority, we know Congo, but the whole continent. Personally, I think I also agree with kids, something he keeps saying. If you look at the African continent, I think as a whole, leave alone even Congo, I think it's because some places are not yet discovered, they really have resources. But I feel like the continent of Africa is so enriched wholly with resources, wholly, like the whole continent. We have Kenya being scrambled for, we have Nigeria being scrambled for, we have Congo being scrambled for, we have Sudan being scrambled for, we have Ethiopia, we have Djibouti. Like, if you look at every African country, there's something to exploit. So we're so full of resources, we are so enriched with, actually, even talk about agriculture, the most arable land. We had plenty of food, we never knew what hunger was, we knew how to survive, we knew how to trade. That is something I also loved when we talk about the Benin Kingdom, when the white people, when they came here trying to bully us, and they understood, like, hey, we know our ground, we know what we're supposed to be doing here for you to earn this. But so back then, I'm looking at literally the iron smelting. This is the Nok civilization. The people who actually introduced iron smelting, that is in Nigeria, which is, I think, right now the South Nigeria. It's going to be explained on this video I'm sharing. And it's just super, super amazing to see that we had all this knowledge. But today, the white men, because of their effed up education, we're not able to actually trace back none of these amazing capabilities of ours. I mean, if we taught well, we can. If we really go back to the real teachings, our teachings, African teachings, just like that girl who was saying yesterday, we can't be having schools. They already colonized school system that we're actually dealing with, and that we're gonna have more white people teaching us our own history, our own cultures and tradition, ways of speaking and walking and living. No, I wish we can actually, and I really hope as we move towards revolution, African countries waking up, African people waking up slowly. I hope maybe when we're gonna be fully decolonized as a whole continent, and the whole of the African people will be so woke, I hope we're gonna be able to tap into all the ancient knowledge that we really had, because it would be so amazing. And I really hope I'm gonna be, not really hope, but I want to be alive. Let me speak it. I want to be alive to see all this enrichment, all these great, amazing turning points. Let me call them the turning points. Yeah. But yeah, because that is basically what we're talking about, the turning points, 8 unsung positive turning points in the Nigerian history. But so this is the Nok civilization that I want to start with, which explains, of course, everything. And I'm going to be giving my points as you get to continue. So karibuni sana, feel free to add your points on whatever you know regarding this history. Let me learn something as well from you.
History is filled with mysteries, stories of great civilizations that rose to power and then vanished without a trace. We've all heard of ancient Egypt and Mesopotamia, but what about the lost cultures that time has nearly forgotten? What about the Nok civilization, a thriving society in West Africa.
And being honest, when I bumped into this information, and this is what I'm talking about, where we need actually our own our own teachings. We don't need this system, the British, the Belgians, I don't know, the French systems that are actually controlling and teaching us their own history. We need to learn our own history. We need to understand what we are really capable of and learn how to tap back into all this power, because we really have so much power, but the white people literally have made us think that we're so inferior. We're not capable of anything until a white man appears, just like you've been seeing what I was sharing on Tuesday, Mr. Beast. You need a Mr. Beast to come save you. You need a Mr. Beast to come show you, hey, this is possible. But you have your own fellow Negroes who can't actually, they have the capability of tapping into what you really want, but they won't do it. I'm talking about these leaders, these puppet leaders we really have in Africa, because if you really had true leaders like Ibrahim Traore, Thomas Sankara, Patrice Lumumba, people who literally try to practice number one Pan-Africanism, uniting us, not dealing with different ethnical, trying to promote tribalism and all that, dividing people, would not be here. If we really had such kind of leaders, would not be here. We'd be talking something totally different. Africans probably would have been awoke long time ago, but everything happens again for a reason. So this is the first time personally when I bumped into this information. It was my first time learning this, and it's just amazing and crazy to see that I didn't know this. In my all years of schooling, I've never heard of the Nok Civilization. Never. So I was really surprised. I was really amazed, being honest, seeing all this history, because we're talking about 8 unsung positive turning points in the Nigerian history. This is the Nok Civilization.
Africa that mysteriously disappeared over 1,500 years ago.
As I continue, I see Kate is with us. Karibu sana, Kate.
Asante Sana, Joby. How are you this morning?
I'm great. You just waking up?
You shut up.
Karibu sana, you just right on time. Today we have an amazing conversation here. We shall be talking about, we're starting with the Nok Civilization, and I'm saying this is amazing to see that personally I'm learning about this, because this is nothing we've been taught in school.
Oh,
And
the Nok Empire. Okay.
yeah, I've never heard about this in my all years of studying the Nok Civilization, never. And this is what I'm saying. It is so important, I hope, as revolution literally and the awakening of Africans, which is now happening, when we're gonna be fully decolonized, like just that lady was saying. I wish and hope we're gonna be would have dealt with these British, French colonial systems, which includes schools, and we're gonna go back to our ways of learning, which includes our African people teaching us, the real history, our history, because this is just crazy to see how powerful the capabilities we really had. But Africans
Well,
again,
that's what John Henry Clark told you. They destroyed colonialism, destroyed your confidence. It taught you
exactly.
lies about who you were. It destroyed your confidence. So that was on purpose. So it destroyed you. They're not going to. When people finally get control of you, they're not going to teach you your history. They're going to tell you that you was backward and no good, and you don't know what's going on, and so they take the children teach their children that, the children teach their children that. So it's been 150 years of lies told to African people, and your history completely erased.
Yeah, we've been made to think we're really inferior, we're incapable, and that's what I'm saying. Like the Mr. Beast example, what I was talking about on
Yeah.
Tuesday. You need a white man to
Shout,
come save you, show you how
shout out to
powerful you
shout out
are.
to Airtime. Airtime used Mr. Beast in that show yesterday. It was funny. She showed the homeless in America and all the problems America said. Mr. Beast, can you go help your people first before you
Exactly,
come before you come to
exactly,
Africa? Why don't you go
exactly.
help your people?
Exactly. So I'm gonna start. Started with the knock. It just came in right on time. We started with the knock civilization. And before I started, there's a video I bumped into, because it's actually connected. And we did actually, our ancestors did figure out ways of smelting iron. And then I'm just talking
It
about, if
ca-
you look at
all
today,
technology came from Africa, too.
exactly.
All
If
of
you look
it.
today, if you look at today now, our Africans, we're so full of resources, but how we are exploited. And look at the knowledge our ancestors had. If we really could, and we had the knowledge of what our ancestors had, because I was just trying to think about it,
You come,
what
you come,
really
you come
this
from, you come from brilliant
not
people, Joe.
yeah, would not be having British people coming, taking our gold, our iron to go,
No,
refine them in their own companies and countries, and then come back and sell
and
them
sell it to you.
for
Exactly.
10
Great.
times the price. Our ancestors literally had, and it was cheap. That is the crazy part. Cheapest ways of just iron smelting. Fire. All you need is just fire. You know, fire, nothing else. Come up with different metallic,
And
maybe different.
you need the fire. You need the fire and the skill. Not just the fire you need. Burn yourself up. You need the fire along also with the skills. So at that time, Africa was see, you can't advance and create civilizations if you don't have peace. And what they've done in Africa now is created wars everywhere, tribal divisions, and just destabilization. So Africa has never been able to develop once the colonialists got there because they were not there to develop. Africa was already developed. They were there to steal. Africa's wealthy. They never came to give any development or this nonsense they tell you in their fake history that they've given you. Came to how you gonna come civilize people who civilized the world. Africans are the first people here. Europeans just got it 2 days ago. How's a baby gonna civilize an adult?
Mhm.
It's
So let me
absolutely crazy. Go
let
ahead,
me
Joe.
share this video.
Who were they? How did they shape the world? And why did they suddenly vanish?
All empires collapse.
Welcome to Unveiling Hidden Past, where we uncover the lost, the forgotten, and the erased. Today, we journey to the heart of Nigeria to explore the enigmatic Nok Civilization, one of Africa's earliest known cultures that pioneered technology, art, and society, yet left behind more questions than answers. The Nok civilization flourished in central Nigeria between 1500 BC and 500 AD, making it one of the oldest known societies in West Africa. At its peak, the Nok people built a complex and structured society, mastering agriculture,
So 1500
iron
years. So
smelting.
okay, so pause it. So let's get a proper timeline. They're saying that this civilization was 1500 BC, so that's 3,000 years before Jesus and Christianity. That's 5,000 years before Islam. So none of these religions existed. There's no Jesus. Sorry, black people, you lived before you got your goopy religion. None of these religions existed. So none of you people were evil or going to your fake hell because they didn't know none of your religions. They didn't even exist. These people lived thousands of years before your religions. That's why you got to know real history, real timelines. They existed thousands of years before your fake Islam and thousands of years before your Christianity.
Mhm.
Go ahead, Joe.
And terracotta sculpture long before many other civilizations. But how did they do it? And why have so few traces of them survived? Imagine a time before the great empires of Mali, Songhai, or Benin. The Nok were pioneers, developing farming techniques that allowed them to sustain large communities. They grew crops, raised livestock, and traded with neighboring groups. Their ability to smelt iron gave them an edge over other societies in the region, crafting tools that made agriculture easier and weapons that made them formidable in battle. But perhaps their most stunning achievement was their art. The Nok civilization is famous for its intricate terracotta sculptures, some of the
Beautiful.
earliest known examples in sub-Saharan Africa. These
Pause that,
expressive figures often
pause that. When you ever hear white people talk about sub-Saharan Africa, that's nonsense because they try to separate Northern Africa because the Arabs are like that was always there. The Africans ruled all of Africa. See, when they say sub-Saharan, they just mean they try to say black people. At that time, the blacks were in Northern Africa too. 1500 BC, the blacks ruled all of Africa. So in Northern Africa, with empires, those were Africans, not those people you see today.
That's the scam they use. Oh, the sub-Saharan African. All of Africa was black. All of it. So those people you see today during this period of time were not even there. They were up in the caves in the mountains. They were in the caves. This is just a historical fact. In the caves of Europe some damn well, the caves of Asia. But they were not in Northern Africa. Northern Africa doesn't look like it did now like it did then. So these people are not sub-Saharan Africans. They're Africans because Africa was controlled by all black people then. That's the scam the white men tell you. Oh, because they try to say that they were there in the North all the time and still the history of the North had nothing to do with them. So they put this scam and call it sub-Saharan African. The African ruled all of Africa. Go ahead, Joby.
And depict humans with elaborate hairstyles, jewelry, and a level of craftsmanship that was far ahead of its time. But what did these sculptures represent? Some experts believe they were used in religious or spiritual ceremonies. Others suggest they could have been burial markers or symbols of status. The truth is, we still don't know for sure. The absence of written records has made it difficult.
These are white people. I'm sure some people know. These are white people. Tell me what they come and just take your history and try to make it. Same thing they did with Kemet. Everything they talk about Kemet is nonsense. So I'm sure Africans were spiritual people. We're connected to God and nature. That's our throughout Africa. So I'm sure everything we did had a spiritual meaning behind it. That's the nature. Not what you see today, the colonialism and the Bible and the nonsense with the Islam, none of that. Africans are spiritual by nature. We're part of God by nature. So everything we do is a reflection of the Creator. So extending that would be our art. That would have some kind of spiritual value to it. So if you knew who Africans were as a people, I would see today in Africa, then African people that's why African people easily conquer with these goofy religions. We are spiritual by nature. So everything we do had a spiritual component, even though it was science too. But when I say spiritual, I want you to understand, Africans didn't have belief. It was knowledge. That's why I'm sure in this civilization that you see the same things that you've seen in Kemet. They knew how the universe actually really worked. This is gnosis from Congo up to Kip. The African knew how things really worked. Not your goofy religions that's all make-believe. The Africans knew how things really worked. So for them, it was always gnosis, knowledge, not belief. That's why all the systems that are coming back again from Africa are telling you the truth. They're always gnosis, like the Great Year. It's always knowledge. Gnosis was never somebody might walk on water and all this other crazy nonsense. No, the African didn't have none of that. You had to prove it. So when we say spiritual, that's just a name for science. Okay, it's just a different name. Spiritual science, but the African call it science spiritual because the European is not spiritual. So he takes science and cuts it off from the spiritual realm, so he doesn't get a full aspect of science. That's why the science is always garbage. The African is always holistic. We are holistic people. So you got to put everything together. So science was just called spirituality. See, the white man separates it. He calls it one of his stuff religion and his science. The African had all that together. Science and spirituality are one. The white man is about, okay, our religion is over here and our science is over here, and both of them are different. The African said, no, how can they be different? Truth is truth. See, that's why their religion and their science doesn't match up. The Christian and Islam doesn't match up with science because they're lies. The African science matched up with the spirituality because you couldn't have a spirituality unless you can prove it. Unless you can have evidence, proof that this is real, this is how it works. Wasn't caught in any superstition, any belief. You had to prove it. And so it was gnosis, knowledge. Go ahead, Joe.
To understand the full significance of these works. Were they depictions of gods, ancestors, everyday people? We may never fully grasp their meaning. The Nok people weren't just artists, they were innovators. They were among the first societies in Africa to master iron smelting, an
And that's
achievement
not,
that changed their world.
and that's not true. That's not true. That's not true. The Africans knew iron smelting millions of years ago. I've already showed you that I already had Joby pull up in the Gabon a nuclear power plant that's 2 million years ago. Africa knew nuclear 2 million years ago. Not no just no. This right here would only be 2,500 years ago, or 3,500 years ago, because she said 1,000. She said 1,500 BC. So that's 3,500 years ago. We show you there's a nuclear power plant in Gabon. It's 2 million years old. 2 million. So these dates are always their fake dates. It's always their fake. The African is millions of years old. They try to make us close to them. That's when they show up. But at this time, 1,500 years ago, white people didn't have nothing. They were in the caves like cavemen. These are facts. So when this is going on, the white man is in the caves going, ooh, can't speak. These are facts. It's not me being racist. In the caves, they're dirty. They can't speak. Llama not even bipedal by now. They're like crawling around like chimps. Facts. So, but no, this is what they saying. It's a lie. African science goes back millions of years because we go up and down. So this is not the first time Africa. If I were rediscovering this knowledge, but no, way much more ancient than that because we're an ancient. That's what everybody hates because they just got here 2 days ago. The African is an ancient people. I'm talking about they would go, well, maybe 10,000, 20,000. So we go back millions of years. That's what they hate. They go back millions of years. These people only got here 6,000 years ago. The Asians got here maybe, people want to say 10. I say maybe 7. European 6. East Indian maybe about the same time that the Asians. But they're all new. And so they want to make your history theirs and their history ours. Because they don't go back as far. That's why they always just take you back to 6,000. That's why the Bible only starts 6,000 years ago. Anybody? Their Bible only starts and the Quran starts 6,000 years ago. Because that's when these people show up. Africans history go way further than that. That's why when they do Kemet, they get mad when they do the real thing, when they see the pyramids probably 50, 60,000 years ago. Because they wasn't here. Go ahead, Joe.
While other civilizations were still working with stone and bronze, the Nok were forging iron weapons.
The stone. They talking about them Stone Age. The African never had a Stone Age. See, they talk about them being. Remember they talk about the Stone Age, but other societies are working with stone. They talk about them being in the caves when they're called cavemen. That's the Stone Age for them, right? Stone Age is the caveman time. Other civilizations are the Stone Age. African never had a Stone Age. We never lived in caves. We were never Stone Age people. They're talking about these other folks. Okay, these other folks were living in stone. They were the Stone Age. When you see the cartoons of Fred Flintstone and all these cavemen, that's them. We never had a Stone Age. There was no Stone Age in Africa ever. Go ahead, Joe.
Tools and farming equipment. This technological advancement put them centuries ahead of their time and made them one of the most influential cultures in early African history.
Early, that's not early African.
Some historians believe that their metalworking skills may have influenced later African empires, including the powerful kingdoms of Ife and Benin. But if they were so advanced, why did they disappear?
Because
around 500 AD, the Nok Civilization mysteriously disappeared. Their once thriving society crumbled, and their people either died out or dispersed into smaller communities.
People don't die out. Suppose that there's no dying out because the African was becoming tribal, lady. You don't understand because you're white. The African now was going into the sleep period at that time. That's when you're going into the end of the Yuga cycle. You're now going into the dark age. The Africans becoming more tribal. So those guys started fighting and becoming tribal and started making different tribes. And so the whole civilization collapsed because they started becoming different. Even though one people at one time, further you go back in time, the African is one. Further closer you get, they start fighting, becoming different tribes because of the Yuga cycle. The African knew that. The African knew there's going to be a certain amount of time when they go away from the star system series, they're going to start losing consciousness and start fighting amongst each other and become tribal. So this is at that time, if you knew anything about the Yuga cycle, lady, which you don't, or the Great Year, the Africans knew they were going to start arguing with each other and start becoming divided. So this is at that period of time when the African starts becoming divided, starts making all these goofy tribes, hating each other. That's this time period. So they knew this. That 500 that brings you to the dark age of the Yuga cycle. That's when, and at this time, you talk about them, and they figure this is when you get those goofy religions being created, because that's the dark ages. Your knowledge is gone. Most people are stupid. You're being born as Thoth called it, you're being born under a different star. It means you're further away from the bigger star, Sirius. So you have less energy on the planet. Less energy means you have less consciousness, less intelligence. And so now you start arguing with one another and creating goofy tribes. That's why none of the tribes in Africa are ancient. You never know. There's no ancient tribe in Africa. You can't find an ancient tribe because they just started at the end of that Yuga cycle. They start creating these tribes of division because they're less conscious, they're less intelligent because of the cycle. Because the African always knew this. He tells you, time we go to sleep, time we start fighting, then we start rising back in knowledge, intelligence, because we get close to start going back to the biggest sun. And it's more energy, making you more intelligent. And so then the tribalism shit stops. You start becoming one people again because you get a smarter people being born. You get a smarter group of individuals being born because they're coming back under more energy. So since you don't know spirit, you don't have no this spiritually, you don't understand this, white lady, whoever doing this, you don't understand this spiritually. The African already knew this. That's why he can map it and understand periods of time that these things were going to happen. They knew. That's how I knew we were going to wake up, because the African already mapped this, saying that at this certain part of time, there's going to be an awakening. The Africans are going to start waking back up. It's going to be at this period of time when the Africans are going to start falling apart. There's going to be a certain time when the Africans are going to be super geniuses. It's a cycle. Like winter, spring, fall, summer. It's a cycle. So me knowing the cycles, I know what happened to them. They start arguing and warring amongst themselves and start dividing themselves into ethnic groups. And so they split off. That's why they didn't disappear, they didn't die.
What could have caused such a sophisticated civilization to vanish? There are several theories.
White people theories.
First, climate change and environmental
disaster. Climate change nonsense. They see how they put the propaganda even back. Climate change and what? They see everything they got put their propaganda in it. Should be climate change. But 3,500 years ago, I mean, no, that would be they said 500 AD, so that'd be 1,500 years ago. Okay, so 1,500 years ago, climate change then too, huh?
Yeah, but the new agenda right now, so there's no climate change that affected African people back then. There was no
they got to put the agenda in it, and it could have been climate change, Joby.
All the weathers, but that is the Nok Civilization. At least we got the important part of where they came with the greatest civilization of, which you say existed before that, the iron smelting.
Yeah, that goes. The Africans go back so far, Joby. That's why we can't be counted. That's where they come and start saying, "Oh, these are ancient for them." It's African civilization goes back millions of years ago.
Mm-hmm. So
that's why there's a cycle. Yeah, it looks like the Benin Empire. I'm not sure. So this is like the Benin Empire, which the British burned down to the ground and then buried it, so you wouldn't even know nothing about it. Mm-hmm. So it means, because this is bigger than the Great Wall of China, mm-hmm. right? So when the British finally took it over 150 50 years ago. They burned it down to the ground because they stole everything out of there. It's in the museums. And not they wanted to make see this is what they were doing. They were trying to erase African genius. Everybody can tell you now that you never built nothing, you didn't know nothing. It's all lies. This was advanced empire here. They burnt it down to the ground and then they buried it so you couldn't find it. They buried it. Go ahead, Joby.
They called it the Great Wall of Africa, a structure so vast, so intricate, that European explorers could scarcely believe it had been built by human hands. It stretched for over 16,000 kilometers, dwarfing even the Great Wall of China in sheer length. But this was no ordinary wall. It was a fortress, a masterpiece of engineering, and the very heart of one of Africa's most powerful kingdoms, Benin. For hundreds of years, these walls kept enemies at bay, guarding a kingdom so rich in art, trade, and military prowess that it rivaled the great civilizations of the world. They were not built of stone like European castles, nor were they mere defensive barriers. They were an interconnected system of moats, ridges, and earthen ramparts that made the city of Benin one of the most well-defended places in the world. But in 1897, the walls met the greatest challenge. The British Empire, fueled by greed and a thirst for conquest, launched a punitive expedition to do what no thought before had.
Pause it. By greed, not to come help you in your, like they say in your history, but come to help you do what? It's the nonsense. The nonsense in these African history books is crazy to me. The missionaries came to help you, and now you believe this. Now that's why they got these morons throwing stones at people, because you completely brain whitewashed. They came to steal and rob, and then take over your lands. Then come to help you. What? You're already wealthy. You see, he told you this place was wealthy. Now Nigeria's a basket case, impoverished. This place was wealthy, not poor. You don't go rob poor people. Go ahead, Joe.
Ever accomplished, breach the great walls of Benin and bring the kingdom to its knees. But this was not an easy war. What the British thought would be a swift invasion turned into a grueling fight against warriors who knew their land, their walls, and their enemy far too well. It was a battle of strategy, endurance, and betrayal, a battle that would ultimately lead to the fall of one of Africa's greatest civilizations.
They had a Negro. There's always a Negro. It was a Negro that betrayed the empire, one of them. Always a Negro that betrays other black people. That's been the history. Because you're in the dark ages. So I understand why we betray each other, because we were still, you're in this cycle of time where you're in the dark ages. You're like, oh, the white man gonna give me some of his money that I can't even use in Africa. Yay, white man! I help you destroy my whole civilization. Yay!
It is the story of the walls of Benin and those who dared to breach them. To understand why the walls were built, we must go back to the roots of Benin's power. The Kingdom of Benin was founded around the 11th century in what is now southern Nigeria. The kingdom grew under the rule of the Obas, powerful kings who expanded their territory through warfare, diplomacy, and economic dominance.
That's why I'm going to tell you. See, when you're talking about modern day Benin, that's not ancient Benin. Just like modern day Ghana is not ancient Ghana. Okay, because you're just one people. You take the names of African empires and you make them in the country, but they're not. When you see Ghana at today, that's not ancient Ghana. Ancient Ghana is Mali, and ancient Benin is in Nigeria, not with the Benin country you see today. Okay, ancient Benin is in Nigeria, not the country of Benin today. Okay, that's the confusion they like to give you. You know, so that's why I said you need to know real African history. And you think, hey, when they talk about ancient Ghana, you think they're talking about the Ghana today. No, that Ghana today had nothing to do with ancient Ghana. It's not even, ancient Ghana was what you call Senegal. Ancient Ghana was Senegal, Mali, and Niger. And then it became bigger when Mali took it over. The Mali Empire enveloped it. But ancient Ghana would be, that's why you know you're same, because the same languages existed back then. So ancient Ghana was Senegal, Mali, and Niger today. Go ahead, Joe.
The 15th century, Benin had become one of the most sophisticated kingdoms in Africa, with a well-organized military, a booming trade system, and a capital city that amazed European visitors.
Of course, it amazed them.
Attracts enemies. Neighboring kingdoms, jealous of Benin's wealth, launched raids. Foreign traders, seeing the kingdom's vast resources, plotted ways to take control.
Yeah,
The Obas knew they needed to
when you
protect their empire.
pause it. Now, when you started Africans, this what happened to you, because even though you were falling in knowledge, you didn't fall in your love. You love everybody, and everybody's not like you. So when these dirty Europeans start showing up, remember they were filthy and dirty. They see in your wealth and they want that wealth. See, so now you're being invaded by savages, right? So your natural thing is like your Kerbusani, kindly, come on in, have something to eat. You're not thinking they're gonna plot and they look around, man, we gotta plot, knock somebody in the head and get all this stuff. We gotta get all this stuff. We gotta take over all of it. Imagine how wealthy we'll be, and imagine how wealthy Europe will be finally. It won't be impoverished no more. Wow, we're gonna steal everything up in here. These people are kind and loving. We can probably indoctrinate their butts once we get control of it. See, that's how they're scheming. You, as an African, you're not even thinking about none of this stuff. Like, come on in, let me share. Hey, you want some of my clothing? Remember, Africans you'd have secondhand. You had the best clothing back then. Understand that? You'd have filthy secondhand clothing because all the textiles came from Africa. Back there was no textile in Europe. Europe didn't make anything. Europe didn't know how to make clothing. They stole it literally piece by piece from Africa, literally. Now you're wearing their secondhand garbage. Back then, you the one wearing fine linens and fine clothing. Now you wearing their secondhand garbage. Go ahead, Joe. I think Joe might went to the bathroom or something. Let me read you. Big Chief thing. A lot of people think religion came before us. I know. I seen a childhood friend on Facebook. He was filled with nothing but Orthodox music, yeah, content. He's totally brainwashed. Keep scrolling, and then he didn't contact him. Yeah, Big Cheese. They, and that's how these religions are new. They're new to play. So the main thing about these religions, they can't be any word of God because they're new. I didn't God teach nobody during these periods of time right here. This the same religion. They can't wrap their minds around it because they're caught in the religion. That the religions are new. So they can't be the word of God because they're new. So when Joby showed that ancient civilization, not ancient of Nok, 3,500 years ago, there was no Islam, there was no Christianity. So why didn't God reveal himself those times, those thousands of years ago? Why did God just decide to show up 2 days ago? See, and that's why they don't want to teach you anything. That's why they want to keep everybody dumb on the planet. You have no linear timeline. You don't know when things even happen. So you think this God, this Islam was always here. You think this Christian insanity was always here. These religions are new. So it wasn't. So why would God just decide to show up 2 days ago? Why didn't he show up 4 and 5 and 10 days before that? Why did God just now decide to let us know who he is 2 days ago? See, if you knew real history, you know, this stuff don't make sense. It's a lie. Go ahead, Joby.
Okay.
Not just with warriors, but with an unbreakable defense. Answer: the walls of Benin were built. This was no ordinary construction project. The walls were not a single structure but a complex system of fortifications. According to scholars, they were constructed over several centuries, reaching their peak in the 14th and 15th centuries. The walls consisted of a vast network of ramparts and moats, stretching over 16,000 kilometers.
And also understand this. Let me say, see, and I think that's why this country of Benin of Africa took that name, because they didn't want their real name. Remember, Benin is really Dahomey. Dahomey worked with the white people to enslave Africans, and so Benin would fight Dahomey. Dahomey would try to raid Benin, the real Benin, the Benin Empire, and try to take Africans into slavery. And Benin fought the Dahomey. So modern day Benin is really Dahomey. And you know, that's where that woman king story comes from. That they reclassified themselves down Benin. No, that's Dahomey. Dahomey would try to raid Benin and take Africans into slavery with the white man. So when you got modern day Benin, they were helping the white man steal Africans and take them into slavery. So I think they kind of, whoever created the name Benin was trying to hide them being Dahomey. Because you'll think of Benin, oh, that must be where the Benin, that's why everybody say, oh, Benin must be where the Benin bronzes came from and Benin Empire. That Benin has nothing to do with Benin and the Benin Empire, nothing to do with the bronzes at all. But in your mind, you'll think that, just like I told you when they made the fake Ethiopia name of, right by Kenya. Some people ain't Ethiopians. Why did all of a sudden 70 years ago change their name to Ethiopia? These are white people. I know, well, Ethiopia's white people nonsense. But Benin, I'm sure they trying to stay. I'm sure the Africans decided, why would you name that Benin? You ain't had nothing to do with Benin. Why would you name it Benin, the country? You had nothing to do with the Benin Empire. Nothing. In fact, you people raised against Benin. You are the Dahomey Empire of that woman king nonsense that Joby went to sleep on. That was born. Go ahead, Joby.
It the largest man-made structure in pre-colonial Africa. Deep trenches and ditches, strategically dug to slow down invaders and trap them in ambush zones. Multiple layers of walls, with the inner walls protecting the royal palace and the outer walls shielding the entire kingdom. The walls were built using a technique known as rammed earth construction, where thousands of laborers compacted earth with water, layer by layer, to create walls strong enough to withstand attacks. It is estimated that the construction took more material than the Great Pyramid of Giza, making it one of the greatest engineering feats in human history. By the 15th and 16th centuries, when European explorers arrived, they were stunned. A Dutch visitor in the 1600s
They weren't explorers. How you call some people raiding and stealing explore? They didn't come to explore. They came to see what we could steal. They knew Africa was wealthy. They knew that then because they got the stores of Mansa Musa, okay, which was about 500 years before this. They were not coming to explore Africa. They were saying, how can we conquer it? How can we get slaves? How can we take it all? They wasn't exploring. Yeah, they use their fake terms. You understand their fake tricky words. They came to explore. They couldn't explore no Africa. They knew it existed. They knew it was rich, and they knew they were poor. They didn't come to explore. They came to exploit. Go ahead, Joe.
City is larger than Amsterdam. The streets are wide, the houses are clean, and the city is well governed.
And lit it. It had that lit. It was lighted, clean streets. See, they not like Africa today. Everything's all tore up and Cabarrus. You had no Cabarrus in Africa. You have any slums in Africa. It did not exist. That's not your creation. That's because you're in the white European system. There were no slums. See, that's one thing about Joby. You got to know history. There weren't no slums in Africa. You don't have slums when you're wealthy. Go ahead, Joby.
Beyond sight, and no European city can compare to its order and greatness.
Exactly. No European city can compare to its greatness. And this is recent time. This ain't ancient history with Benin. This is 300 and 400 years ago. This is recent. They would call you a savage. There's no city in Europe that can compare at all. But that's not in your history book. Go ahead, Joby.
The walls were more than just physical barriers. They were a symbol of their power and identity. For centuries, the walls did the job. They repelled invaders, rival kingdoms, and rebellious factions. They ensured that the Oba of Benin controlled trade on his own terms. When the Portuguese arrived in the 15th century, seeking gold, spices, and slaves, they quickly realized that Benin was not a kingdom to be bullied.
Exactly. They tried to, Benin said, we don't do slavery. And you take any out people, it's war. Take any out people, it's war around here.
With Europeans. The Obas dictated the terms of trade, ensuring that their kingdom remained independent and powerful. Even when the transatlantic slave trade expanded, Benin refused to fully engage in it, choosing instead to trade in ivory, textiles, and palm oil.
Exactly. That's why the country today of Benin, that was really Dahomey. See, that's why I said, why did this country Dahomey call themselves Benin? They're trying to take Benin's damn history. Country Benin had nothing to do with ancient Benin at all. Country Benin is Dahomey. They worked with the white man to translate. And the country of Benin today invaded real Benin. Okay, those Negroes were trying to help the white man enslave people. That was the homie, not Benin. And all of a sudden they were changing. Oh, we're the country of Benin. You have nothing to do with the Benin Empire, which is in Nigeria. Nothing. You are the homie. You Negroes collaborated with the white man to enslave your own people. You did. That's your history. If you tried to erase it by naming yourself Benin. Go ahead, Joby.
Foreign powers became more aggressive. By the 19th century, the British had grown tired of Benin's control over trade. They wanted the kingdom's resources, its land, and, most importantly, its rich supply of palm oil, which was crucial for the booming industrial economy in Europe. In 1897, Britain decided to take what it could not negotiate. It began with deception. The British, under the pretext of diplomacy, sent a delegation to Benin City in January 1897. But the Oba, suspecting treachery, refused to allow them in. The British, insulted and eager for an excuse to attack, declared war on Benin. A force of 1,200 British soldiers, armed with machine guns, cannons, and explosives, was sent to destroy what had stood for centuries.
See, Africa, you didn't develop militarily because you're not a warlike people. So you were still using the same spears and nonsense you're using 400 and 500 years ago. But now they have cannons. See, that's how the same thing happened to Japan. But Japan said, we got to develop. These white people got cannons and guns. We got to get that. You should have developed Africa. That's the problem. You didn't understand the European threat that these people are savages. They come to steal everything. Everything. Because you're wealthy. They want it. They only ain't like they say, you know what, you Africans, we can trade. They don't want to trade. They want to dominate and steal it. And so at this time you were not militarily able to defend what was yours. And so now they have now had advanced since you first came in encounter with them. Like you said, the Portuguese in the 1500s, you're talking about 300 years later, they have now developed more weaponized warfare because they're warmongers. You're not. So they developed their war skills. You did not. And they developed their technology in making war because they want to steal and rob. That's their nature. That's not yours. That's why you don't develop Africans. You don't want to develop weapons. You want to develop peace and love and prosper. Not understanding people will come to take what you have. So you must develop military. And this was your first lesson because you didn't develop when you first met these people. In 300 years, their whole system of military aggression had changed. Their technology is now more advanced than yours. And that's why you couldn't defeat them now. Go ahead, Joe.
Fierce resistance. They knew their terrain well, using ambush tactics and guerrilla warfare to slow the British advance. The jungle became a battlefield, filled with deadly traps, hidden tunnels, and warriors armed with poisoned arrows and spears. But the British had something Benin did not: firepower.
Machine guns, exactly. Machine guns, and your spears are not going to work against machine guns. You're supposed to develop militarily. So your spears, you're fighting the same way you fought 1,000 years ago. 2,000. This technology was not going to work against machine guns and tanks, cannons, and all this other stuff. But I'm glad you see you're fighting. When they tell you the European came in, you laid down and you welcome and no, you fought for your lands. They tell you stories that they just came with their Jesus and you accepted it, and that's how you got colonized. No, you still fought. You just was you were outgunned. At that time, the African was outgunned because you're not a warmonger. You did not develop militarily. That's how you got collapsed. That's how you got conquered. You didn't develop militarily throughout the centuries. That's what happened to you, to us as Africans. You didn't develop your military prowess. They did. Go ahead, Joe.
Were blasted apart by cannons and dynamite. British soldiers stormed the city, burning it to the ground and looting its treasures. The legendary Benin bronzes, priceless artworks depicting the history and culture of the kingdom, were stolen and shipped to Europe, where they remain to this day. The Oba of Benin was captured and exiled, and the kingdom was brought under British rule. The once mighty walls, symbols of Benin's greatness, were left in ruins. Today, only fragments of these walls remain. Many have been destroyed by urban development, and others have been lost to time. But their legacy endures. Archaeologists consider them one of the greatest achievements of African engineering. Historians recognize them as a testament to Benin's power, innovation, and resilience. And for the people of modern-day Nigeria, the walls remain a symbol of resistance, a reminder of a
No,
time when their
no, that's
ancestors
not true.
built.
That's not true. Most Nigerians didn't even know about Benin. They came, they took those kids and put them in the same school like Kenya. They taught them nonsense. They didn't even tell them about Benin. They didn't tell them about it. So each child grew up, had a child, didn't know shit, had another child, didn't know shit, their child didn't know shit, their child didn't know shit. They just didn't destroy Benin. They buried it, they erased it from history. They made sure there was no remnants of this African greatness even. Because remember, now colonialism, like Joe said, now they're making you lose your confidence. They're teaching you a savage. They're teaching you lies. Now your people was like they told Job. I mean, as Job, were your ancestors evil? They took your ancestors evil. They didn't know how to do anything. We came. We taught you how to read and write. You were savages. We taught you your ancestors were drinking blood and doing whatever. You're like, wow, what? So imagine your great grandmother hearing this stuff as a baby, as a child, in their schools. And then she teach her children teach their children, they teach their children. You don't come from savages. But your mind can fathom that. You don't come from savage people. You should know, even though you might have tribal beefs, you should know instinctively that you're loving people. You should be able to see that. If you're not completely indoctrinated in the head, you should be able to see that African's nature is loving. You should be able to see. I mean, you ain't got to be a genius, but you should be able to see that African nature is loving, kindness. That's your nature. That's why you see it everywhere you go in Africa. You see kindness first. Maybe not amongst yourself because you've been indoctrinated to hate black and hate each other. Or you get mad if somebody tell you God is black. You've been taught to hate yourself. But you see Africans' interaction with everybody else, you see it's kind, it's loving. Everybody can come to your country, build businesses in your country, and you would patronize it. You would go and pay money to do business with them, but no one would do business with you, and no one does business with other people. That's not their own. The African does that. Because that's the love you have for humanity. That's why you are the original people. You're the first thing of God. That's why you have the love of God in you to everybody else. Because you're the true reflection of God on this planet. That's your nature. So you didn't think about building arms and bombs to go kill people. You were just sitting developing, loving, clean streets, feeding your kids, loving each other. You think, hey, let me go conquer other people and blow them up and rape their women and kill them and beat them. It's not your nature. It's not your nature. Go ahead, Joe.
So the last video I'm gonna share is of the Afro-Brazilian returnees who came back and then reached Lagos. That is in the 19th century.
Yeah, they came back. Yeah, the slaves that came back to it wasn't Nigeria. They just that area. Yeah, they don't worship. Understand, Big Cheese. These people. Okay, now we're gonna talk about genetics. Okay. If you want to understand the world, you want to understand these other people. I taught you guys, go research a chimpanzee colony. And I mean this. It's not a joke. Remember, their genetics are from chimpanzees. But you understand, this is real. See, that's the stuff they already know this. Go research, go into Africa and research a chimpanzee colony and how it acts. They believe in power. It's not that they worship white people. White people got power. So all like chimps worship the power that's ruling at the time. So that's their nature. So That's why all other races worship white people. Why they still being brutal to them? Because their fallback is power. Because they're created with chimpanzee genetics. See, all of them have what? Neanderthal, which comes from a chimp. This is just fact. Go research a chimpanzee colony in Africa. Now, right now, see, everybody sees how big the gorilla is, right? The gorilla is huge. But the gorilla is kind and loving. The chimps are not. They're aggressive. So right now you got a war right now in Africa of chimps dominating the bigger gorilla. Because chimps are brutal. The chimps are now started to war against the gorillas, and the gorillas are all big and huge, but he can't war with the chimpanzee because the chimpanzee is a warmonger. So they're raiding the ape colony and just destroying it, beating them, they're killing apes. The chimps run around and killing the chimps right now run around killing the apes. They're all apes. Run around killing the gorillas. There's a war right now, and understand, chimpanzee colonies have wars against each other. They war against one another. The chimps have wars against each other. So that genetics was put into the Asians, Caucasians, and East Indians. They got the same genetics. Now just go. I did that years ago. I might just do that again. Have me and Joby go and just start from the chimpanzee so you'll see it. So I think I'll do that tomorrow with me and Joby. I'll show you a chimpanzee colony having war with one another. So those genetics are in. So understand the people that, let's say I'm on YouTube that, let's say, lack of better word, let's say created these other people. They wanted those genetics in these things because they wanted to invade African empires. Remember, the Africans love it. They needed a warlike people to invade Africa. Now at this time, Africans all over the world with empires, right? All over the world. Empires in China. All your first empires are all Africans, all of it. They try to hide that, but now it's come out again. All empires on the planet, Japan, China, all Africans. Because we were the only people here. So all your early empires are African people. So you got a fight within the Africa. At that time, you got to fight with other Africans. So you got a group, and that's when you are advanced technically. Not today when you're dumb. You're technically, see, we're talking about the great year cycle again. So now you're almost coming down, but you're still brilliant. So now you're starting to what? Now you at the ascending. You're going back down and now, but you're brilliant still. So you got a group of Africa that wants to rule all of it. So they're not as loving as everybody. So they got a group of Africans who are brilliant, who have technology far advanced. Why you see the pyramids, that advanced shit right there. They ain't come from no damn caveman. That shit we can't do today. That's advanced technology. The Africans come from geniuses. You go back to sleep, you become a genius, then you go dumb again, become a genius, you go dumb again, become a genius, you go dumb again. It's a cycle. So at that time, your genius is now going back down into that's consciousness. So at that time, you're starting to fight again. And so it's a group of Africans who have the knowledge of gene splicing, creating other human beings. And that's all on the walls of Kemet. That's just, and it's also, and I'm going to have Joby look up Gerald Massey's The Book of the Beginnings, where he writes, the white man told you the truth. Where the Africans said, we are the root race. We are the beginning of everything. And we fucked around and made other people because we were warring against each other, because we were going down in consciousness. That's the white man wrote that. The British white man, Gerald Massey, The Book of the Beginnings, Volume 1. So Africans knew gene splice. They knew how to make people. Because you're high tech. You think them people make that? You see that shit in the pyramids today? That high advanced technology? What? You can't even fathom the knowledge to make that. You can't make it today. And what's under the ground is more advanced than the shit than the stuff on top of the ground. So you come from a high technical people. So you had people messing around with gene splicing and took chimpanzee genetics and merged it with the black woman. Of course, she's the only woman, so you got to use her genetics. So you merge that with the African woman. That's why every person on this planet has what? African woman genetics. These are facts. Everybody on this planet has African woman genetics. So you take the African woman's genetics, you merge it with a damn what they call a hominid, chimp, and you back cross that to try to make a human being. First, it comes out looking like a Bigfoot. A Bigfoot becomes a Neanderthal. So you keep back crossing the genes. The Bigfoot becomes a Neanderthal. Then the Neanderthal becomes a Caucasian, or really, the East Indian first. Then you get the Asian, because you put other animal species to make other things. Because you know that's why the Asian eyes are different. They're created from a different let's say a different trying to do without YouTube mess me up, a different animal, right? A different ape. So we know the lemur was used for the East Indians because they got lemur genetics. That's a fact. We know the snub-nosed monkey was used for the Asians. They got that in them. And we know the Caucasian was used with the rhesus monkey. So you take that, take the black woman's genetics, you back cross that with the chimp, and then you back cross that again because you're trying to humanize the thing. So you keep back crossing, so you make it human as close to human as possible. So this is the thing of gene splicing, which the white man knows how to do now, with called CRISPR-9 technology. This is not nothing he invented. He just relearning what's been done thousands of years ago. So you take so now that becomes so you back cross the chimp with the black woman's genome. So now you get now you get a Bigfoot. You take the Bigfoot and back cross it again because you're trying to breed most of the animal out of it. That's why everybody besides Africans have what? Neanderthal genetics. Only the African doesn't have that. The African's the only true human being on the planet. So where does everybody get to that? Because the Africans start back crossing stuff. Took the chimpanzee, you start back crossing it. That's where you get your Bigfoot. Your Bigfoot, we know Bigfoot exists. And then your Bigfoot becomes your Neanderthal. And then Neanderthal, you back crossing Neanderthal again with the African woman's genetics to try to back cross to make it as human as possible till you can now teach the thing. That's why the European couldn't talk at first. The Asian couldn't talk. So you back cross and trying to make it as human as possible. And see, I don't have to know the complete history because I know the genetics. The genetics say that's the fact. That's why they always say I see the video on TikTok. We all came from apes. This is the ape we came from. There's no ape genetics in African people, so we don't all come from apes. So that's what they hate. And there's no hate. There's no ape genetics in Joby. There's no ape running around with an afro. Okay? There's no ape with an afro. There are no apes with afros. The reason why they got that hair is because of what? The back crossing with this thing, with this chimp. And the Africans knew this. That's why they didn't use the gorilla. The gorilla is a calm, loving animal. The chimp is not. So the Africans knew all this technology. They didn't use the ape. They didn't use the gorilla's genetics. They didn't use the orangutan's genetics. They used a Pacific ape that's violent, that's prone to violence, prone to warmongering. Because they could have used. You got the big. Because people look at the big gorilla. The gorilla's loving. It's calm.
As you wind up kindly.
It's got to wind up. Whenever we get deep into the discussion, Joe, we want to wind up all the time.
No, it's because you've just changed the conversation. It's good to explaining, but the time is up too. So as we wind up,
where's the reason for everything we're going through? Because we create these hateful I'm trying to figure out. I think it's unfair. Were we all involved in this damn wicked thing that happened? But see, understand, Big Cheese, the earth is now getting rid of what the African did. Remember, Mama Earth is living. It's a living female entity. The Earth is alive. So the Earth is getting rid of the parasites that were not supposed to be here. That's why now everybody's now getting all these cancers and the sun is getting hotter. Because as you go back to Sirius, if you're not an original person from God, you're not going to be able to exist on this planet. See, that's why they want to that's why all the transhumanism stuff, they want to put your body into a robot. They want to put your mind and take your consciousness, put it into a robot, because they know within a few hundred years they won't survive. That's why all the birth rates are going down. The African birth rate, is booming. And everybody else's birth rate is now going down because you're going back to Sirius, you're going back to a bigger sun. And so the energy on the earth, everybody's talking about this fake global warming nonsense. And that's what's happening. So we know, but see, I still can't come to the conclusion why they did it, but we know that they did do it. I don't know what happened, because half the story said it was the aliens, the Anunnaki that did it, right? The other story just said it was the Africans fighting each other. So I can't put that story together, not because I'm not there, but the genetics tell me that the genetics show me that, yeah, there was a creation that happened. That's the fact. Now the story, whether it was the Anunnaki blacks that came from Sirius, who came down the spaceships and started creating people, or was the African who did it. That story I can't reconcile yet. But we know through genetics, yes, these other people created. That's why they got the fake evolution story. They came from a monkey and stuff, because they know they got monkey genetics. They know they got ape genetics. But the African does not. We don't have any of that. So they can't say we evolved from that. And the African told you that we come straight from the ether, because they knew all this. The African told we come straight from God. We come straight from the ether. We are energetic light beings who fell into the body of this skin because of the vibration slowed down. So all evidence shows you Africans were telling you the truth. We have no monkey genetics. Unless you're sleeping with one of them, you have a baby. That's you. That's your baby now, dude. But, if you got a mixed baby, your baby got it. But the Africans don't got it. And then if you go back to black, you breed out that genetics. Okay, guys, much love. I don't know what's stopping anyway. That thing, I'm gonna get rid of that music show. Anyway.
You say what?
Don't worry about what I said with your agitated ass.
Anyway, much love, family. We're gonna come to the end of today's call. I'm not feeling well, so that's why I'm trying to get out of here. I'm not really feeling well. But much love, family. Have yourselves a beautiful day. Thank you so much for tuning in. For the rest of the conversation that I've left pending, we'll continue tomorrow. We're supposed to discuss 8 of them, but I will discuss 2 so far: the Nok Civilization and that is the Benin. We'll discuss the Afro Brazilian who came back to enrich, that is Nigeria. We'll discuss also of the Abo women. There's so many.
You already talked about the ones that came back to Brazil. That's how I learned it from you the last time. You did that about a year ago.
I don't think I remember that. Then
yes, Joby, you did, because I know nothing about it. Yes, Joby, you did it.
Women War of 1929, and then we're gonna do Nigeria's peaceful transition to independency. We're gonna do the Green Revolution and agriculture development in the 1980s. I don't know if that really existed, the Green Revolution in the 1980s. And the rise of Hollywood as well. That is in the 1990s to 2000. Really looking at the 8 unsung. They say the 8 unsung turning points, positive turning points of the Nigerian history. So we'll continue the rest tomorrow. Kindly allow me go seek my medication. My ulcers are really burning me. So
ulcers, okay. No wonder why you're agitated.
So much love, family. Have yourselves a beautiful day. Thank you so much for tuning in. See you guys tomorrow, same time, same place. But of course, tonight on the Culture Show and the rest of the show.
This is Joby. This is Joby's karma for making those people. Joby did that shit.
So much love. See you guys later. I don't know what he's talking about.
Joby Joby made those people.
He's part, he's part of the
10,000 years
mess.
ago.
He's the biggest part of the mess, you guys. You see, he has all the knowledge more than we do, so it's him, not us.
First time busy on the beat.